Have you ever asked yourself why women can feel absolutely nothing for a man who would do anything for them, yet obsess over the one who barely tries? Why she says she wants a nice guy, but her heart races for the one who doesn't chase her? Comment enough if you're done being confused, overlooked, and emotionally exhausted. Because today, that ends. What I'm about to say will shake your beliefs, but it will also transform your relationships, your focus, and your entire life, if you're man enough to hear it. Number 1. Your purpose comes first. Men without direction always chase. When you lack a path, everything that enters your life becomes your focus, especially women. You look to her for meaning, for validation, for structure. You wait for her messages to feel alive. You plan your week around her availability. You lose sleep wondering why she's distant, analyzing every word she sends, rewriting texts 10 times before hitting send. But what you're really doing is outsourcing your identity to someone who doesn't even know who she is yet. When you don't know where you're going, anyone can distract you, and the distractions will always look like connection. This isn't weakness. This is untrained energy. You've been taught to be emotionally available to women before you're even emotionally available to yourself. That's how men get trapped in endless cycles of giving, pleasing, hoping, without ever building anything of value. When you're lost, her attention feels like direction. But the second she withdraws, you collapse. And that's the truth most men refuse to face. If your entire world shatters because one woman pulls away, you never had a world to begin with. You were squatting in hers. That's why you feel anxious when she takes too long to reply. That's why you stay up questioning your worth after she ghosts. That's why her approval determines your confidence. You're not in control. You're reacting, not leading. You're orbiting her emotions, hoping she stays warm. But women don't want to mother grown men. They want to feel a man who doesn't ask where he stands because he's too busy moving. A man who doesn't make her his plan because he has one. Real purpose creates gravity. When you move with clarity, when your goals structure your days, when your time is guarded by a mission. Women sense it. They don't say it, but they feel it in how you speak, in how you wait to reply, in how you're not shaken by their moods, their silence, or their tests. Because you're not seeking them, you're building something they want to be part of. But this only happens when you stop lying to yourself, when you stop pretending you're just being nice or taking it slow, when you admit you've been passive, drifting and scared to take full ownership of your path, scared to be judged for choosing solitude over shallow validation, scared to lose access to a woman you never really had. That ends now. You don't need to disappear to heal. You don't need to retreat into a cave and meditate for a decade. You need to make a decision, right now. Choose a goal, not for her, not to impress anyone, but because you refuse to live another year circling women who don't even respect the version of you they see. Start small. Wake up 90 minutes earlier. Invest that time in a skill, business, fitness, reading, learning, every single day. Guard that time like oxygen. Cut out the digital noise. Say no to unnecessary plans. Build structure in your day that makes you unavailable by default. Women will notice. They will feel the shift. They will see the difference between a man who has time for everything and a man who's selective because he's building. And most importantly, you will feel it. Your words will carry weight. Your silence will create presence. Your energy will no longer scream, "Choose me." It will whisper, "Keep up." That's how you stop chasing, not by pretending to be cold, but by being too locked in to beg, too focused to fold, too clear to be confused. This is what separates boys who crave connection from men who attract it naturally. You don't have to beg for loyalty when you live with purpose. You don't have to guess how she feels when your standards eliminate confusion. The more grounded you become, the more you see the chaos for what it is, noise trying to pull you from yourself. And when you stop chasing chaos, you start building peace. You walk into rooms differently. You speak slower. You ask questions with intent. You listen to respond, not to impress. And suddenly, she's leaning in, not because you tried, but because she senses something rare, a man whose world is complete with or without her. That's the type of man women remember. That's the type of man other men follow. That's the type of man who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't fold, because he's too busy becoming something unshakable. And if you want to feel what that's like, start now. Don't wait for a perfect plan. Don't wait to feel motivated. Action births clarity. Clarity attracts respect. And respect, once earned, becomes the quiet power that guides everything else. So take your power back, not with words, with execution. Let your results speak louder than your apologies. Let your progress become your peace. And when she asks why you changed, tell her you finally remembered who you were before you forgot yourself trying to be enough for someone else. That's when everything changes. And if you're ready to walk that path with clarity, discipline, and complete control over your direction, the Stoic relationship blueprint for men is for you. It's more than a book. It's a foundation, a vault of timeless Stoic principles designed specifically for men who are done chasing, pleasing, and shrinking. Inside, you'll find everything you were never taught about relationships, power, and purpose, and it will transform the way you live, lead, and love. And now it's available in audiobook format, so you can absorb this life-changing knowledge while walking, training, or driving, anytime, anywhere. No more wasting time in confusion. No more second-guessing your value. With one click, it's yours, forever. No games, just the clarity and structure you've been craving. Click the link in the comments now and make the decision most men are too afraid to make, to take back control of their life. Number 2. Calm is power. She argues. She tests you. She throws emotional smoke just to see what you'll do. And most men, they react. They raise their voice, explain themselves, seek to correct her behavior, hoping if they say the right thing, if they just convince her hard enough, she'll finally understand and respect them. But every time they react, they leak power. Every time they engage emotionally on her terms, they validate chaos. And once you validate chaos, it becomes the language of your relationship. You're not leading anymore. You're negotiating your peace. Understand this. When a woman throws you into emotional situations, she's not looking for answers. She's not looking for solutions. She's trying to feel something from you. Strength, certainty, groundedness. Most men fail this test because they think the goal is to win the argument. But the real test is silent. It's how you handle pressure, not how you explain yourself under it. She wants to feel your ability to hold the line when she crosses it. She wants to feel that her storm doesn't move you, not because you ignore her, but because you are deeply rooted in what matters. When you argue, when you yell, when you fold or explain endlessly, you become just like her. You become reactive, and you collapse the polarity that makes attraction even possible. The truth is, men today are trained to be emotional first responders, always running into the fire, trying to fix the damage, trying to save the connection. But connection isn't built in chaos, it's destroyed there. You're not the firefighter, you're the fireproof foundation. She can burn the room, scream, accuse, test, retreat, and you remain unmoved. Not because you don't care, but because you care too much to be pulled into dysfunction. That's what true calm is. Not indifference, not apathy, but the deliberate choice to stay aligned with your values, no matter what she throws at you. This is where your discipline matters more than your desire. It's easy to be calm when things go well. It's when she turns cold, when she pulls away, when she questions you, that you show who you really are. And most of you crack at the first sign of friction. You beg, you chase, you flood her with texts trying to keep her interested. But all she sees is a man whose emotions are dictated by her behavior. That's not strength, that's submission, and she will never respect a man she can emotionally control. Respect doesn't come from how much you love her. It comes from how much of yourself you keep, no matter how much you love her. It's the moments you say nothing when she expects an outburst. It's the moments you walk away instead of engaging. It's the moments you pause before reacting, because reaction is what she expects. She knows what buttons to push. She knows what words to use to spark you. But the moment she pushes and nothing moves, she starts to feel something she hasn't felt in a long time. Curiosity. Curiosity about your strength. Curiosity about your silence. Curiosity about what drives you more than her emotions. That's the beginning of respect. And respect is the soil where real attraction grows. But this calm doesn't come naturally. It's trained. It's earned through daily discipline. You earn it in how you structure your mornings, how you train your body, how you sharpen your thinking. Because when your mind is scattered, when your life has no order, you will always react emotionally. You're already off balance before she even tests you. That's why she triggers you so easily, because you were already unstable. Real calm is built before the conflict. You walk into every interaction having already decided what version of yourself is allowed to show up. You don't figure it out in the middle of the storm, you prepare for it. That's what most men miss. They think calm is a personality trait. It's not. It's a muscle, and it's your job to build it. You build it by setting standards for your time, by saying no more often, by walking away from anyone who doesn't match your energy. You build it by facing discomfort daily, lifting heavier, waking earlier, standing your ground in uncomfortable moments. The man who cannot remain composed in small tensions will crumble in the bigger ones. And women feel that. They feel when you're not grounded, when you're chasing emotional reassurance, when you're scared of losing them. But when you're calm, truly calm, you stop trying to control her. You let her come and go. You let her moods flow like weather, because your internal climate never changes. And that is terrifyingly attractive. It makes her feel safe, not because you're passive, but because you're dependable. She knows she can be emotional and you won't collapse. She knows she can test you and you won't crack. That's the kind of man who leaves a lasting impact. The kind she remembers long after the ones who chased and pleased have faded into memory. But most importantly, calm is power, because it gives you clarity. In calm, you see red flags faster. You feel misalignment earlier. You walk away quicker. You no longer need drama to feel alive. You don't seek intensity. You build stability. And that's what separates men who get played from men who get chosen. When you stop reacting to her chaos, you start creating your peace. When you stop needing her to feel okay, you finally start living from a place of power. And when she sees that, when she realizes that her mood no longer controls you, she either levels up or leaves. Either way, you win. Because calm isn't about controlling her, it's about controlling you. And when you master that, everything in your life begins to align. Relationships become easier. Decisions become clearer. Energy returns. Because you're no longer wasting it explaining yourself to people who don't even listen, reacting to emotions that aren't yours, chasing love from someone who doesn't even know how to give it. You reclaim your power, not through dominance, through discipline. And discipline is what she respects more than anything. The man who can hold the line when everything around him is begging him to break. Number 3, mystery creates desire. She doesn't want to know everything about you. She wants to discover you. slowly, mysteriously. When you spill your entire story, unload every emotion, tell her every plan, you kill the tension. You turn yourself into a completed book with no pages left to turn. No man excites a woman when she already knows what he's going to say, how he's going to react, and where he's going in life. Most men ruin attraction by over-explaining, oversharing, and being emotionally transparent before anything is even earned. You think you're building intimacy by telling her about your trauma, your fears, your past. But what you're really doing is putting her in control of the frame. She stops being curious about you because you leave nothing for her to figure out. Attraction thrives on tension, and tension thrives on the unknown. When you give it all away, she loses interest not because she's cruel, but because you've removed her emotional investment. People value what they work to understand, and when you give everything too fast, she didn't have to work for it. She didn't earn your trust, your story, or your presence, and that makes it feel worthless. You think she'll love you for being open, but what she truly respects is restraint. A man who speaks with precision, a man who answers less than expected, a man who doesn't fill silence with noise but uses it as power, and most of all, a man who knows the difference between vulnerability and exposure. Vulnerability is measured. Exposure is reckless. When you open up to gain favor, to be seen as deep, to fast-track connection, you lose polarity. You remove the tension that creates emotional weight. The truth is, most men use emotional openness as a strategy to be liked, not as a reflection of actual strength. You want to feel loved quickly, so you give your full emotional resume up front, thinking she'll admire the honesty, but she doesn't. She sees desperation. She sees a man who seeks closeness before he has even earned respect. That's not attractive. That's exhausting. The men she remembers, the ones who linger in her mind, aren't the ones who poured their soul out on date one. It's the ones she had to study, the ones who didn't rush to reply, the ones who challenged her assumptions, the ones who let her wonder. This isn't about playing games. It's about protecting your essence. Because once a woman feels she's figured you out, the mystery dissolves. The curiosity dies. And without curiosity, there is no tension. And without tension, there is no attraction. You must understand that who you are is sacred. Your story is sacred. Your emotions are not a display. They're a privilege she has to earn. And when she earns it, when she's invested, when she's proven she's emotionally stable, respectful, and genuine, that's when you gradually reveal deeper layers. Not because you need to, but because you choose to. You lead the pace. You control the narrative. This doesn't mean being distant or cold. It means being selective. It means letting your actions speak first, your energy set the tone, and your silence command attention. When she asks about your past, don't dump it all out. Say what's necessary and nothing more. Let her ask more if she wants to. Let her lean in. When she tests your boundaries, don't lecture. Show her the line by holding it. When she tries to get inside your mind, let her stay curious. Let her feel there's always more to you than what you've shown. That keeps her emotionally invested. That creates the push and pull dynamic her nervous system craves, but her words will never admit. She'll say she wants transparency, but she feels excitement from unpredictability. She'll say she wants consistency, but she gets obsessed with the unknown. And that unknown, that space, is where your power lives. You give it away every time you over-communicate, every time you check in too often, every time you try to clarify where you stand before she's even asked. She's not looking for clarity, she's looking for energy. Energy she can feel, not facts she can hear. And you create that energy by being a man whose life doesn't orbit her emotions. A man who's so deeply immersed in his own journey that he only shares when it adds value, not when he's anxious. Imagine you meet a woman who's stunning, smart and charismatic, but by the end of the first date, she's told you her whole life story, cried twice, mentioned her ex 3 times, and confessed she already feels a deep connection. What happens? You feel overwhelmed. You feel the weight of her need. You feel pressure to reciprocate a level of intimacy you didn't ask for. That's what women feel when you emotionally unload too early. It's not romantic, it's uncomfortable, and it tells her you lack emotional discipline. Emotional discipline means you can feel deeply, but you don't bleed on people who haven't earned your truth. It means you don't express everything just because you feel it. You hold space for your own emotions first. You don't need her to absorb them. You process them before you present them. That is attractive. That is rare. And in a world where men are told to constantly share, to be raw at all times, the man who practices emotional restraint becomes unforgettable. Because she senses he doesn't need her to fix him. He doesn't need her to validate him. He doesn't need her to complete him. He simply allows her to discover who he is, one layer at a time, on his terms. That creates security. That creates trust. And ironically, that creates deeper connection than any flood of words ever could. So train yourself to speak with intention. Stop filling silence. Stop over-explaining. Let your mystery breathe. Let her ask. Let her wonder. Let her come closer, not because you pulled her, but because she felt drawn in by something she couldn't define. That's what makes her stay. Not your resume, not your trauma, not your perfectly written messages. It's your restraint, your power, your silence that doesn't beg for attention but demands respect. Number 4, your boundaries are non-negotiable. A man who doesn't protect his boundaries loses everything: respect, desire, peace, and eventually himself. When you let her raise her voice at you, when you let her flake without consequence, when you let her cross your standards and stay anyway, you teach her that your words mean nothing. And the moment your word means nothing, you become the man she tolerates, not the man she chooses. You don't lose women because you set boundaries. You lose them because you don't enforce them. And most men know this deep down. You feel it every time you let something slide. Every time you agree just to keep the peace. Every time you silence your own discomfort to avoid her mood. You shrink, thinking you're saving the connection, but what you're really doing is slowly destroying yourself. And she watches it happen. She watches you betray yourself over and over until there's nothing left to admire. Women don't test you to be evil. They test you to feel safe. They test you to feel something solid, something that won't move when pressure is applied. If you always fold, always compromise, always seek to avoid her discomfort, she learns she can't trust your leadership. And if she can't trust it, she can't follow it. Most men confuse love with permission. You think loving her means accepting her worst. You think being understanding means having no standards. But love without boundaries is chaos. It's a slow death. It's being walked over by the very woman you wanted to protect. You can't protect anyone if you can't protect yourself. Your boundaries aren't about controlling her. They're about commanding yourself. They're not ultimatums. They're reflections of your values. A man who values his peace walks away from noise. A man who values respect stops explaining when it's being ignored. A man who values time doesn't beg for it to be honored. If you want her to respect you, you must first show that you respect yourself. That means deciding what behaviors are unacceptable and making it known. And when she crosses that line, you enforce it. Not with yelling, not with threats, but with action. You step back. You remove access. You withdraw your presence not as punishment, but as preservation. And you do it consistently, every time. Because the moment you make exceptions for disrespect, you give her the rule book for how to treat you. And don't think she doesn't notice. She notices everything, every time you backtrack, Every time you soften your tone, every time you say it's okay when it's not. She catalogues it all, and her respect drops with every entry. Eventually, she doesn't even feel bad about disrespecting you because you've trained her to expect that you'll take it. And that's when she checks out emotionally. Not because she's heartless, but because you never showed her what kind of man you truly are. You buried that man under the desire to please, and no woman wants to sleep next to a man she can emotionally manipulate. Boundaries are how you stop the manipulation. They are your defense against being turned into someone you don't recognize. They are how you keep your edge, your dignity, and your ability to lead. And the truth is, she'll respect you more when you hold them. Even if she fights it in the moment, she'll feel the shift. She'll feel the strength, and she'll either align or leave. Either way, you win. Because the man who knows his worth doesn't keep anyone who threatens it. He doesn't bend for approval. He doesn't negotiate his peace. He walks firmly in his standards, knowing that the right people will rise to meet them, and the wrong ones will expose themselves trying to break them. Be that man. Set the line. Hold the line. Let everything fall away that can't respect it. Number 5. Validation is her power. When you chase validation, you hand her the leash. You hand her the control panel to your emotions. You let her silence ruin your day, and her compliments build your ego. And that's why most men live in emotional slavery. They've never built the ability to approve of themselves. You get a compliment and you feel 10 feet tall. She withdraws and you spiral. Your energy swings like a pendulum based on how she sees you, or worse, how you think she sees you. And it's destroying your sense of self. You become addicted to reassurance, addicted to being told you're enough, addicted to the little dopamine hits she gives you when she smiles, laughs, touches, or affirms you. But what happens when she doesn't? What happens when she pulls back? What happens when she gets cold? You panic, you chase, you perform. You become the dancing puppet desperate to get a reaction. You're no longer leading. You're following her emotional cues like a lost child. That's the difference between men who get chosen and men who get used. The man who validates himself moves on energy that doesn't need applause. He doesn't ask if he's good enough. He defines it. He doesn't wait to be seen. He chooses when and where to show up. And ironically, that man gets the most validation. Not because he chases it, but because his detachment from it makes him magnetic. Women feel when you need their approval. They feel the hunger in your eyes, the weight in your compliments, the desperation in your messages, and it repels them. Not because they hate kindness, but because neediness feels like weakness. And women are repelled by emotional weakness, no matter how sweet it sounds. If you want to stop being ignored, stop performing. Stop trying to be liked. Stop changing your tone to avoid conflict. Start grounding yourself in your own perception. Look in the mirror and decide who you are, then live that truth with zero apology. That's what creates attraction. Not the compliments, not the gifts, not the overinvestment, but the self-certainty that says, I approve of me, your opinion is optional. And no, this isn't about being arrogant. It's about being centered. The most attractive men aren't loud. They're grounded. Their energy speaks before their words do. Their presence is enough because it comes from a place of self-completion. You want to get a woman obsessed? Stop obsessing over her reactions. Stop reading into every text. Stop letting her mood determine your worth. Start becoming a man who sets his own emotional tone every day. When you validate yourself through discipline, results, clarity, and consistency, women start to validate you automatically because people mirror what they feel. And when you radiate self-respect, people reflect it back. So stop waiting for her to remind you that you're valuable. Become the man who already knows, and when you do, you'll realize that her validation was never the goal. Number 6. Detach from outcome. Clinginess is death, not just to attraction, but to peace, power, and presence. The more you want a specific result, the more you fear not getting it. And fear makes you desperate. Desperation makes you predictable. Predictability makes you disposable. That's the chain reaction most men live under. You meet a woman, feel a spark, and immediately you start crafting expectations. You imagine the relationship, the connection, the future. And suddenly, you're no longer interacting with her. You're interacting with your own fantasy of what she could become. Every text is a test. Every silence is a crisis. You try to manage her perception instead of living in your truth. And the more you care about how she sees you, the more you stop seeing yourself. You laugh at jokes you don't find funny. You soften your opinions. You agree to things you hate. You pretend to be less busy, more available, more emotionally intelligent, all in the name of outcome, and it backfires every time. Because women feel when your actions are driven by fear. Fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood, fear of losing something you never really had. The men who win aren't the ones who try harder. They're the ones who detach, not from caring, but from controlling. They give their best, and then they let go. They express without chasing. They show interest without obsession. They invest without needing a return. That's what makes them powerful, because nothing is more magnetic than a man who can walk away at any moment, not out of bitterness, not out of arrogance, but because he knows his worth doesn't live in anyone's reaction. Detachment means you stop asking, "What if I lose her?" and start asking, "What do I lose if I lose myself?" And if the answer is your peace, your sleep, your standards, your mission, then you've already lost. Real power is built on the ability to stay centered while everything around you shifts. She pulls back, you stay grounded. She tests you, you stay calm. She walks away, you stay moving. Because you were never anchored in her, you were anchored in purpose. That's why detachment isn't cold, it's focused. It's what allows you to lead. A man who needs nothing is the hardest man to manipulate. And a man who can't be manipulated is the only kind women feel safe surrendering to. If you want her to choose you, you must first become the man who doesn't need to be chosen. Then everything changes. The dynamic flips. You're no longer reacting. You're creating. You're no longer performing. You're living. And the right people start orbiting your life, not because you begged, but because your energy makes them want to stay. That's the power of detachment. And when you master it, every room you walk into feels it. If you're tired of feeling powerless, tired of guessing what went wrong, tired of giving your all and still being left behind, it's time to stop living in confusion. You were never meant to chase approval. You were meant to lead, to build, to choose. And that's why I created the Stoic Relationship Blueprint for Men ebook, filled with timeless principles that will restructure your thinking, your relationships, and your future, is now available in audiobook format, so you can listen while you walk, jog, or train, and start reclaiming control with every step. This isn't just a book, it's your playbook for life, and it's yours forever. No more excuses, no more being lost. Tap the link in the comments, like, subscribe, and comment, "I choose power," if you're ready to stop being played and start living by your own rules.